Hi, Royce. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Douglas?
Good. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to see you. How would you describe yourself? As a teacher or an author or both?
Actually, both. I describe myself as a spiritual transformational teacher, and I've written three books based on my teachings.
I like the title of your books too. Very concise. You got what do you got? You got want, you got know, and you got back, right?
Yes, yes, and they all have longer subtitles, but yeah, they just kind of came to me and they just felt right, so there you go.
Okay. Um, Give me an idea of what I noticed on your bio that you do group classes, you do private sessions. Give me an idea of what one would expect if he came in for a private session.
Oh, that's always a tough question because everybody is so different. But basically, what I help people with is getting in touch with those roadblocks, the fears, the false beliefs, the expectations, all the things that kind of get in the way of life in general, or moving ahead, or changing, or feeling deserving. Uh, and I do very deep inner spiritually based work where I help people to get in touch with those memories that they probably suppress. So a lot of subconscious work, but we look at it in a spiritual way. In other words, it's not psychological, it's more spiritually based.
So, is this sitting on the floor and cushions and candles and meditating and
All the cliches of spirituality. No,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
definitely not a traditional spiritual teacher at all. Although some people do like to light candles, but no, I don't encourage that. It doesn't matter at all. It just matters that there's a willingness and a desire and readiness, really.
Well, I know certainly fear holds a lot of people back.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's probably our biggest fear is fear, right? And people that have been successful in life tended to have been able to sort of plow through that wall and just kind of get on with it.
Yes.
Um, why are we fearful of things? We're fear of getting hurt, fear of rejection, fear all that. Yeah.
Fear everywhere. I explain it as it being kind of a subconscious, sort of primitive part of our brain that thinks only in terms of survival. And because of that, we're living from a fear based place all the time because anything that looks or smells or feels like a survival threat to that lower consciousness triggers us. So, I teach people how to get in touch with that and to not necessarily buy into the messages from that part of the brain, but to find out where those messages are coming from and resolve them because they source way back. I talk a little bit here and there about past lives and the influence that they have on us. So all of that stuff is stored in there. It's programmed in there, and when it gets triggered, we react from a fear-based place. To shift into a more higher consciousness place, you need to resolve those fears. You need to get in touch with what they're about, get to the root of them. I always talk about getting to the root of things and yank them out because otherwise it'll just be suppressed and it'll come out in different ways. So that's what fears come from.
You mentioned past lives. That's an interesting subject because certainly some people believe that, some people don't.
Yes.
Um, I know that with the Buddhists that they believe that depending on how good you are in this life determines what you come back as in the next life. So if you were a good person, you come back as a very high being, like a lion or something. But if you were a bad person, you come back as a mosquito, and I've read through some of that, and it's amusing, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
What is your take on reincarnation and
Well,
past lives?
there's a lot of truth to the influence of karma. So, in other words, if I do something and I believe that it caused pain or loss, I'm going to reap the effects of that. Just like if I do something that I really feel came from a compassionate, pure place, so to speak, I'm going to reap the effects of that too. But I teach that everything is a choice. That on some level we've chosen this lifetime, we've chosen our parents, we've chosen our geographical location, we've chosen our body types, all of that stuff to learn and complete, but we didn't learn and complete from previous lifetimes. And that's a real bottom line explanation of what I do talk about in terms of reincarnation.
Okay, good. No, I like that explanation. That's
Yeah.
clear and simple. You
Haven't
know,
met too many mosquitoes, you know.
I've met lots of them actually,
Yeah.
but not in Las Vegas. When I used to live in the Northeast, in the summertime they were brutal. You know, I haven't met any nice mosquitoes. I'll tell you that. But one of your talking points that I wanted to hit on, it says why people feel instant connections or have an instant negative reaction towards others. Do you know somebody named John Edwards? He was a
Yes.
Okay. I interviewed him a year or so ago, and he referred to that as smelly energy.
That's great.
And I thought it was good because he says, obviously, we've met people who had bodily odor that was quite offensive. But he said, this is just the spiritual end of that, where they might not physically smell, but you go into a room and you meet this person, and immediately you're just sort of repelled by something.
Yes.
So, what is that? Can you elaborate on that?
I like his expression, smelly energy. That's great. I
It's
never
great.
heard
Yeah, it's a
it,
great term.
but it's really true because we are sensitive, aware beings, and there's a part of us that knows who that person is, or what their intention is, or perhaps what they've done in the past, or what they're here to teach us. So we sense that, and we have either an instant connection or an instant repulsion, based on whatever it is that we're sensing. And I think that happens all the time for people, but they may not necessarily be consciously aware of it, or they may just discount it. It's like, oh, yeah, well, maybe I just don't like blonde haired guys. So, yeah, that happens all the time, constantly.
Well, we all have our prejudices that, in one way or another, we try to keep them sort of suppressed. We don't wear them on our sleeve. But there are just those certain people that nobody seems to like. And we had, everybody's had one of those in the office, right? Where just nobody could get along with this person. So, what do you do with somebody like that? I mean, what's wrong with that person? Why is there a consensus against certain people that just nobody likes them at all?
Well, you probably won't like my answer either. I've had groups actually where everybody just can't stand one of the students. And I always find that that particular student that we all just want to get rid of and tell them to go away, that's the one that's going to be the best teacher for us. Why? Because they're going to show us some aspect of ourselves that we're deeply in denial about. I call that mirroring. I talk a lot about that in my classes. So that person, that obnoxious person that we all can't stand, is trying to wake us up in some way, trying to have us see that, oh, there's something about myself that I don't like that I'm seeing in that person. There's politicians that do that. There's, you know, people on the freeway that do that. It happens all the time. But when
Right.
it's that huge, when it's that intense, there's really something to learn, even on a group level. I've had groups that's finally figured out what's going on with why they hate that one person, and everyone in the group had the same issue to work on. So it's really interesting to see what comes up from situations like that, rather than just pushing them out the door and judging them and saying they're horrible.
You think you could apply that same theory to President Trump?
Ooh,
Right.
politics.
Normally, I don't bring politics up,
Yeah.
but I just thought it was funny because, here's a guy that people either despise or they love. There's not
Yes.
anything in the middle. So,
Yes. It's all the same. I've been working on what he is mirroring to all of us for almost 4 years because it's huge. It's
Yeah, it
huge.
is.
In fact, I have a group right now that all we're doing is focusing on what is Donald Trump showing us about us? What is he bringing forth that we don't want to see about ourselves, whether it be, the selfishness or whatever it is you want to say about him is something that we're saying about ourselves that we're just in denial about. So yeah, he's a wonderful teacher for a lot of people, a lot of conscious people.
Well, based on your theory, yeah, he would be the Dalai Lama, I think, of
Yeah,
teaching.
yes, definitely, yes.
So what else? We kind of have to start winding this down. You want to talk about one of your books? Which book are you promoting at this point?
Well, I actually just happen to have them all right here. I've got
Okay.
this book called Want, True
Hold it up
Love,
a little.
Past
Hold
Life.
it up a little higher so we can.
Here we
There we
go.
go.
True
Okay.
Love, Past Lives, and Other Complications. This one was the first book that I wrote, and it's about soulmates. It's actually a fictionalized story about something that I experienced when I met my soulmate, and it has a lot of my teachings kind of interwoven in there, and I talk about past lives, etc. But if somebody's interested in getting to find out some of the stuff that I teach, this one,
No.
no, a spiritual break, what is it? Spiritual wake up call. And that one really goes into detail about the concepts that I teach, and I kind of take people step by step into doing some inner work, mindfulness, awareness. Um, it has some homework assignments and some experiential exercises in each chapter. A lot of stories that I talk about. But that would be the one that I would say, if you're interested in what I teach, that's the one to get. Yeah. And
Okay.
I have a third book too, just really fast. I wrote
Yeah.
this. My husband had a massive stroke a few years ago,
Oh, I'm sorry.
writing what that meant and what I was learning from that. And I go into all the details about that, and it's really fascinating. Yeah.
Is he all right?
He is getting better all the time. Yes.
He's getting better. Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
great. Do you have a website that you want to put out?
It's roycemorales.com or perfectlifeawakening.com. Either one will get you to the same website.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was very interesting. It was fun talking to you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Best of luck, and I hope your power stays on for the rest of the day.
I hope so too. Yeah, up in the mountains, we're iffy today, so we just made it in time, I think. Yeah.
Are you near any of the big fires?
There are a couple of them going on right now, but nothing really big. So we're just kind of used to it every year. So
Okay.
yep.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on